Hello, folks. This is Lonzo, the president of the Compton Entertainment Chamber of Commerce. And something that we like to do from time to time is interview people from the community that have had a major impact on the community and in the community. Today, I guess is a buddy of mine. He and I interviewed before. We've talked in the past, and he's a regular supporter of the Compton Entertainment Chamber of Commerce. He's a sitting judge in the Compton court, but he's also a poet. I want to welcome to the show Judge Kelvin Fowler. Judge Fowler, how you doing there? Can you hear me?
Lonzo, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine. I hear you absolutely perfectly. Hold on one second. Let me make sure we're okay. Let me double check something right quick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't hear you.
Okay. You don't hear me, huh? That's not good. What about now? I guess not. Okay. What about now? Let me see.
Should I go back and try logging on again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on back in. We're gonna hold off a minute, folks. Let the judge come back in right quick. Sometimes this happens when you go live. This is a live show being broadcast on Facebook and YouTube, my multiple YouTube channels, my multiple Facebook channels. And every once in a while we have a little glitch, but that's the beauty of what we do, because we're gonna get the real deal, unedited, straight out of the judge's mouth and mine too. So just stick around for a second, folks. We'll be right back. In the meantime, we're about to celebrate Juneteenth in Compton. We have multiple events going down. June 14th at the Dollar High Center. We have Father's Day brunch and Juneteenth event. Saturday, we'll be at the NHS with their event. And Sunday, we'll be hanging out with Cliff's Burritos over on Alondra, folks, with this Juneteenth event. Let's see what Judge Fowler got for us now. Anything good? We good now? How we looking?
Lonzo, I can't hear you still.
I hear you fine.
Let me go back and try one more thing.
One more time. Take your time. All right, they're gonna let him come back again because I'm trying to figure out why he don't hear me and I hear him perfectly. Anyway, folks, like I said before, Friday we'll be at the Dollar High Center for the Father's Day luncheon. Saturday we'll be at NHS over on Rosecrans for the Juneteenth Taste of Compton event. And Sunday we'll be with Cliff's Burritos on Alondra. Live entertainment, dancing, partying right there in the parking lot of Cliff's. It's going down, folks. Come on through somebody's event. All of them are free. Just come on out and support. That's all you got to do. All the events are free. Father's Day event, Dollar High, from 11 to 2. Saturday, we'll be at the NHS on Rosecrans. That's going to be a big event. Food trucks, vendors, the whole 9 yards. And Sunday over at Cliff's in the parking lot, throwing down with the live entertainment. It's going down in the CPT. Plus, if you don't know by now, we got some brand new fire trucks, y'all. I feel like a kid with Tonka toys. Big old fire trucks, $5 million with the fire trucks. Congratulations to the city of Compton for making it happen. City council, city manager, everybody, much love to you. Let's try to get the judge back in one more time, will you? All right, now, what we got?
Can you hear me?
I got you.
I can hear you.
Fantastic.
And I apologize, man. I'm not good with the computers. Good thing my daughter was here with me. Help me out.
Okay, no problem. Till I said thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, Judge. How you doing today?
I'm doing okay, man. It's been a busy day today. I'm telling you, I'm in the middle of a jury trial. Well, not in the middle of it. I'm in the middle of motions before a jury trial. So I've been on the bench pretty much all day, except at lunch. I did go over to the fire department so that I could witness part of the acknowledgments of the new fire engines that they have there. But it's been a busy day, but I prefer to be busy, to be very frank.
I do as well. And you know what, Judge? It's amazing that you find time. Well, I guess you was right there. You right down the elevator, but I guess you can find time to come out and hang out with the folks. And that's rare, man. That's very rare. That I've been around judges at dinners and events or whatever, but I never seen one that just walked amongst the community like you do and just hang out like one of the fellas, man. That's amazing. What gives you that comfort to be able to do that?
Part of it is I was born, raised, and educated right here in Compton. And my law practice was here in Compton for 11 years. when I came on the bench, December 10th, 1993, I was a commissioner, Compton Municipal Court Commissioner. When I was elevated to the Superior Court Commissioner, I stayed at Compton. When I was appointed as a judge, I asked to stay at Compton. So my entire career has been here at Compton. I've never wanted to go to any other courthouse or any other court assignment, and I've had opportunities. But I just feel like I belong here. And because this is my hometown, I want people, particularly young people, students, to see that you can be born, raised, and educated in Compton and still achieve whatever it is your dream and your heart wants to achieve. And so that's why I like intermingling. Now, my staff, my bailiff, woo, they get on me about that. They don't like me going out because I do. I go out, and a lot of times people say, "Hey, aren't you a judge?" And I say, "Yes, I am." But I've never had a problem, knock on wood, because I handle cases that are very, very controversial, and some of them are very, very violent, for lack of a better phrase, involving all kinds of gangs and everything else. But I just can't believe in living in fear either. I just realized that I got to live my life, do my best, and then just keep moving forward. So I love getting out amongst people.
Speaking of getting out amongst the people, last week you came by the mixer. I thank you for showing up and hanging out with us. You told us you had a book of poetry. Now, I'm totally blown away. I have never met a judge with a poetic heart. Tell us about your poetry book.
Well, I've always written poetry, going back to when I was at Compton High School. And then when I went to UC Santa Cruz for undergrad, I used to write poems and send them back to my mother, my older brother, my older sister. And usually I would write when I feel a need. So when I was feeling down or if I was feeling happy about something, my poems reflect that. Then I realized, you know what? These poems, it's like a diary for me. Okay. And so that's why my book, it's titled A Poetic Diary, because that's what it does. And it's really been like therapy for me. Because my poems reflect everything that I was coming from, and Compton High School, a class of over 750 with 95% of the population being Black, going to UC Santa Cruz, where we had a total of 146 Black students out of 6,000 students. And so that was a change that I welcomed. But my poetry helped me to get through a lot of that because it was interesting. And going to law school, the same thing. My father had prepared me for law school, but I knew that there were going to be some tough times. And whenever I found myself in those tough periods, I wrote a poem about it. And it's kind of like getting it out of my system and putting it on paper. And it really helps me. And so then as I became a lawyer and even to the bench, I realized that I needed to write in order to help me get through difficult times and also to help me reflect upon the good times. So my book of poetry, it is a poetic diary, and it really does tell my entire life story, including some problems that I've had, and I have no hesitancy in acknowledging that.
You feel comfortable sharing some of that with us right now?
Absolutely. When I got married, I thought that I was going to be married for life. I adored my wife. To this day, I still don't know why I'm married. But when my marriage fell apart, I had just become a commissioner. And so I was no longer in private practice. And I did not know how to deal with it, man. Because I have two daughters that I adore. And I'll do anything for my daughters. And so it was real tough when my family life just completely fell apart because I didn't know why. So the way I dealt with that was I turned to alcohol. And I was what you would call a binge alcoholic. That means I didn't drink every day. But when I would drink on the weekends, I would binge drink. I would drink a lot. And it never affected. I never came to work intoxicated. I never drank while I was at work. But I was using on the weekends. I was using alcohol on the weekends. That's all. No other drugs. I'm strictly alcohol. And that's not good. It's not good. So when my marriage, was clear we weren't going to get back together, I tried to take steps to make sure that I wouldn't drink again because I knew, it's not good to have to rely upon something like alcohol. And particularly I was a commissioner and I had aspirations for being a judge as well. But the first birthday after my marriage fell apart, November 25th, 1996, I was all by myself. I was despondent because my daughters didn't call me, and I'm not blaming them, but they didn't. I didn't get a call from my daughters, and so I drank to try and ease my concerns and soothe my feelings, and ended up getting a DUI.
Wow.
Now, I'm a commissioner. I have a DUI, and my marriage is falling apart. I'm divorced. Those are not being divorced and having a DUI. Those are not qualities that the governor is going to like, to be very frank. So I knew that, and I was concerned about whether I would be able to be appointed a judge. But I was, at this time, I'm trying to stop drinking. I don't want to drink because I know that I don't need alcohol, and I can't handle alcohol. I'm an alcoholic. I have no problems acknowledging that. So I would go periods where I wouldn't drink, and every now and then I would relapse, man. And unfortunately, that's part of the journey of most alcoholics. If it's
Right.
not, thank God, and I get all the credit. But for me, I would think that I'm doing good. I'm gonna have a drink to celebrate. No, I can't do that. So let me tell you what happened to me. My mother and father, I just adore them so much. My mother finally told me, look, you are still young enough. You can still get your life back together. And because I was living in an apartment. I'm a commissioner. I'm making good money. I'm living in an apartment, shared custody with my daughters, the whole bit. My mother said, go get you a house and move on with your life. That's what my mother told me to do. And you better, she told me. So that's what I did, man. And I had been sober for like 11 months. I hadn't come close to having a drink. And I bought a house, and a nice house. And then so I was moving in, my daughters, they loved it. They're going to have their own room, the whole bit. And I'm saying, man, finally my life is turning around. I'm getting back in, and now I can put my application in because I'm still a commissioner. I can put my application in to be a judge. And I decided that I could celebrate by having a drink. So as I'm moving stuff from my apartment to my house, which is in Long Beach, I have no problem saying that. Man, my daughters are with me, and I have an accident. It's a one-car accident. And, I go over the thing, my axle to my car is broke. Police, of course, come out. And I kid you not, Lonzo, this is the honest God truth. I'm sitting in the back of the patrol car. And I'm saying, in the back of my mind, this is it for me. I'm never going to be appointed. I'm going to have a second DUI. My daughters were outside the car on their knees praying for me, saying, please don't let them take my daddy to jail. Please don't take my daddy to jail. Please don't take my daddy to jail. Just praying for me. I saw that and I said, I'll never drink again. And I haven't. That was September 2000. And I haven't come close to having a drink since September 3rd, 2000.
The cop let you go?
Let me tell you,
Okay.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm in the back of the patrol car. The deputies saw my daughters praying. They realized it was a one-car accident. They didn't know anything about me, but I was right around the corner from where my house was, my new house was. They took me home. And they called, made sure that my brothers and sisters were able to come over and take care of the daughters. And I still assumed that, I was going to get a letter one day saying charges had been filed against you. Never came.
Wow.
My guardian angels, man. And to this day, I've been trying to find out who those two deputies were. And I cannot find them. I have not been able to find them. One time when I went to, because I believe they were from the Lakewood station, because that's where the incident kind of occurred. And the person said, oh, man, I told the lady why I was trying to, this receptionist, why I was trying to look for this deputy. And she said, you know what? The deputy who patrolled that area, he was killed in the line of duty trying to help someone else. And she said, everything you described, that sounds like him. And so they figured, I guess, because I didn't cause any harm to anybody, nobody was hurt, no damage, that the charges were never filed. Had charges been filed, I wouldn't have been on the bench. I probably wouldn't have been appointed.
Wow.
But it's so interesting how at that day, then after that, all the good things started happening. And so if people ever say, is there a God? I can tell you there's a God. And I can tell you that sometimes there are going to be angels who will help you because those 2 deputies were my angels.
Mm. Angels with badges. Wow.
Yes, indeed.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a good story. I heard you tell it before. I wanted you to share it with my audience today, man. That's a great story. And it's one that, people in your position might not be willing to share, but I appreciate the fact that you're open like that, man. I mean, that means a lot.
Because I hope it would help someone else. And I've helped some other individuals who've come to me. And of course, I won't disclose their identities, but there have been several people who have come to me and we've talked. And I've told them, yes, you can overcome it, but there are certain things you need to do. And I tried to be a resource for them and there for them, whatever they need. And so, I just feel, like I said, God answered my daughter's prayers, man.
Wow.
I'll never forget that. And I haven't come close to having a drink, and I won't. I'm not even worried about that. That'll never happen again.
I got a question for you, though.
Sure.
What was your drink of choice at the time?
Scotch and tonic. Johnny Walker Red, Scotch and tonic.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's a good thing, man. All right. Glad to hear it. Fantastic, man. I know you've been busy today. You heard about the Trump situation, right?
I did.
What do you think about that?
Unfortunately, I can't comment on that because it's a pending case.
Okay.
The only thing I would indicate is I admired the way that the judge handled himself throughout that trial.
Okay.
And I found it interesting to hear the commentators talk about things that, to me, it shows that they had never been inside of a courtroom and they'd never been attorneys inside a courtroom. And they certainly didn't do criminal cases. Because some of the stuff they were saying, I'm saying, this is par for the course. I mean, the things that the judge was doing, I do every single day.
Okay.
Whether it's admonishing a witness or telling the jurors certain things. And when the jury instructions that he gave to him were just standard instructions, and people are making a big deal about the fact that he told them certain things, all he's doing is telling the jury decides they do 2 things. They decide the facts, they apply the law to the facts to see if it can return a verdict. They are not to consider penalty or punishment. And that's why he was upset when the one attorney made reference to keeping the defendant, Trump out of jail or something along those lines. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. And that's why the judge was upset. So I admired him because of the way he handled himself in that trial. And so, the jurors, they've rendered their decision and we all have to live by it.
Have you ever had a jury bring back a decision that you like, what?
You know what? I pretty much agree with almost every single one of the jury decisions in my courtroom because jurors do their job. And I've had juries come back with not guilty verdicts. I've had juries come back with verdicts that were for a lesser offense.
Okay.
And I've had juries come back and tell me that we are hung. We can't decide this case and we're split. And there's nothing that we can do that's going to allow us to come to a unanimous verdict. And in those instances, they've understood. They tried their hardest. So particularly in California, man, we got great people, great jurors. I'm gonna start picking a jury on Monday on my case that I'm doing right now. And the jury system is the best system in the world. It really is, because individuals who, regardless of how you feel about things, regardless of what happened to you, regardless of who you're friends with, if you can commit to following the law and determining the facts only from the evidence, and then applying the law to the facts and rendering the decision without worrying about the consequences of that decision, meaning you don't worry about what's going to happen if you come back with not guilty. You don't worry what the punishment's going to be if you come back with guilty. Determine the facts, apply the law to the facts, return your verdict, and that's it. And that's what that jury did.
The jury still make $5 a day or something like that?
It's horrible. It's ridiculous.
How do they do that? That's $50 for the decision makers. Everybody in that courtroom get paid big money except for the 12 people that make the final decision.
And let me tell you something, though. I even though as a judge, I can't get involved in legislative or political stuff as well. But on this one, I have, because I've been making suggestions through the appropriate channels, including our local legislators whom I'm friends with, that we need to increase the pay for our jurors up to $100 a day. And there's some movement towards that. It's being done in experimental places right now, I think in San Francisco, and the jurors love it. But you're absolutely correct. Our jurors are horribly underpaid. And I tell my jurors that. And so what I tell them is, number one, they can't get punished, though, for serving on a jury. Their employers can't punish them. And any of the jurors who want me to call their employer, I call them.
Okay.
I can't guarantee anything, but
Right.
sometimes when the judge calls the employer, they'll say, okay, well, we'll give them some additional days, or we'll give them some additional. It happens, and I do it.
Okay.
I call them. And
Okay.
also, I've had some jurors who, in fact, a couple of them would told me that during voir dire, when we were questioning that they were going to law school. I said, well, when you pass the bar exam, I'll be honored to swear you in, and I've sworn them in. I've got 3 or 4 jurors that have done that. And
Wow.
one time, it was some jurors who met during my jury service while serving on a jury in my courtroom, and they became romantically involved and actually ended up getting married. I performed the wedding ceremony
Wow.
because I
Okay.
told them that I would.
Wow. Now, question. I know Trump is. I got to ask you this. I know he's a master of stalling everything he touches. I don't know if you could speak on it or not. If you can, I understand. But I got to ask about that Fannie Willis situation. Was that her and her being involved with her special prosecutor? Was that really a big issue? I mean, that really what they made what could affect the trial, or is just another smokescreen that he was trying to throw into the mix?
It wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on it because the case is still pending.
Okay.
I would just say that that could have been handled much, much cleaner.
Okay. I'll take that. I'll take that all day.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it all day. Tell us more about your book, your book of poetry.
Well, again, if anybody wants to know anything about my journey, it's there. And I also have a lot of references to some of my other loves. My daughters, adore, they're in there. My dogs are in there. My parents, my family, my brothers and sisters. My love of music, Sly and the Family Stone. My love of sports, Lakers, all that's in there. And the way I write my poetry, because I do it, when it comes to me, I just sit right down and then it's out there. Usually there are 2 messages. It's always a double entendre. And so that's part of the joy, I think, some of the readers get when they read it, because they'll realize, hey, you know what? He's talking about his journey, or he's talking about something that happened to him, or how something impacted him, but they can relate to it because of the point I'm making. When I talk about, missing my mother when I was going away to college, the first person I'm going to call back, let me speak to my mommy. That's people do that. About never giving up. If anybody knows the story of my father's journey, several times in many of my poems, I made reference, I would say, they won't let him through, or why won't they let him pass? And anybody who knows my father's journey knows that's who I'm referencing. I couldn't understand how he could not be an attorney, and why he couldn't pass the California bar exam, allegedly. So it's informative. I hope it's inspiring. And that's the key thing that I hope. In fact, I've had several students, particularly from UC Santa Cruz, because I speak on a regular basis there. And part of the requirement of their class is that they buy my book and read my book.
Okay.
And so they love asking me about certain poems, what I was talking about, what I was referencing. And so I give them the scoop on it.
What was the name of the TV show that was modeled after your family?
Sparks.
Yes.
And it was based upon a law office in Compton, based upon my law practice. And in fact, Ed Weinberger was the producer of that television series. And Ed Weinberger produced a bunch of good things. The Jeffersons, I think. I don't know if it was Sanford and Son, but he had a lot of hits. And so he wanted to do what he called an LA Live, but in Compton. LA Law, but in Compton. It was an LA Law show that used to be on. He wanted to do it in Compton. He heard about my father's journey. And so he came out and he interviewed us and he talked about us, and we signed off on the waiver that he could use the fact that, we had a family of lawyers, meaning the father was a lawyer and 2 sons were lawyers. And what's interesting about that series is we also gave him some suggestions about some of the scripts and some of the series events and some of the episodes and stuff, about some real life characters that I have. And I thought a couple of them were some of the funniest ones they had. Like he had a client who was sweating profusely during his deposition. He couldn't stop sweating. That actually happened with me. I had a client, Lonnie Shepard. Lonnie was a great guy. Lonnie, his deposition, I looked over, he was sweating up a storm and he couldn't stop sweating. And Sparks used that in one of their episodes. But Robin Givens, Terrence Howard, Miguel Nunez, the actor who played the father in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, And I'm forgetting one other young lady who's a comic right now who's just on Steve Harvey's show the other day. She was the secretary. All of them got their start with
Kim Whitley.
Kim Whitley. She played the secretary. Now, let me tell you something about that. My mom was my secretary.
Okay.
And so Kim Whitley played the secretary in the show, and my mother didn't like the way she was portrayed. But every time they showed Kim Whitley and she's sitting at her desk, all you had to do, in fact, if you go back and look at it on YouTube, if you look over her shoulder, you see pictures clear as day of me, my brother Anthony, my father, and my mother, because they actually used our furniture and our pictures from my old loft. They actually came in, got them, took them down there, and used them during the set.
Wow. Now, remember, they used the storefront right there on Compton Boulevard.
Right on Compton, 363 West Compton Boulevard.
Wow.
I still own that building, 363 West Compton Boulevard. I still own the building. And in fact, the Williams sisters, their organization is in what was formerly my law office, 363.
Okay.
They have their nonprofit
over there.
Big pardon?
How many offices are over there?
It's 4. And I own all 4 of them, but 363 was the biggest one, and that's where my office was. That's the one that's furthest west. Then there's 361, then 359 and 357. And then and now in 357, I think there's a church in there. Then there's a sports club in 359, and actually they're pretty prominent. And then the Williams sisters, they have their organization that's named after the sister who was killed in Compton.
Okay.
Their organization is there. It's an after-school program. It's a tutorial program, and they use my old law office for that.
I never knew that.
It's real interesting because the Williams sisters actually came when they rededicated it maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
They asked me to come over.
Okay.
And so when I get there, Venus and Serena are there. And so the person who was running the organization said that we have a Judge Filer. He used to have his law office here. Would you like to say a few words? And so I told them something that I don't know how many times I've shared it with them, but it's absolutely true. So I went and I stood right in the door and I said, let me tell you something. And I spoke to Venus and Serena and I said, Richard Williams, of course, that's the other.
Right.
Richard Williams stood right where I'm standing right now in 1980s, 1988, 89, I think it was. And we were having a meeting there because I was going to start this group called the Compton Athletic Foundation.
Okay.
And it was going to be a nonprofit designed to be a vehicle for people who come from Compton, made it in sports, to give back to the Compton Athletic Foundation. Okay. I drew it up. It's my idea completely. And we were having our first meeting. Well, my dad knew Richard Williams because Richard Williams would always ask the city, could he use the tennis courts for Venus and Serena?
Okay.
So he was there. He walks in and he says, my 2 daughters are going to be the greatest tennis players in the world. I am quoting him verbatim. He said that before anybody knew anything about Venus and Serena. He said, my 2 daughters are going to be the greatest tennis players in the world. Right there. And when I looked over, both Venus and Serena, they were emotional. They were getting emotional when I told them that story. So that was a nice moment. I enjoyed being able to share that with them.
All right. Okay. Well, before we go, anything you want to share with the people? Just any information you want to get out right quick or anything?
Just, Lonzo, I appreciate the way that you reach out to the community and that you try and spread positive news, because in Compton, we always hear about generally just the negative stuff, and there's a lot of positive that comes out of Compton.
It is.
In terms of my courtroom, in Department C on the 9th floor, my courtroom is always open. I don't know if you can see my door. See, that's my door to my chambers.
Okay.
I keep my door open, and I keep it open because I want to be able to specifically say that my door is open, both physically and not spiritually necessarily, but it's just I'm there so that if you want to come by and talk and visit with me, my door is always open, and that applies particularly to anybody who's interested in the law. I love talking to people who think they might want to have a career in the law.
All right, Judge Fowler's in the house, y'all. Thank you very much. A poet, a judge, just a good dude. I'm gonna say that a good dude overall. Okay, besides the judge, he's a good dude, and that right there goes a long way.
I appreciate it, Lonzo.
Thank you for taking time out, Doc. I appreciate it.
You got it. Take care. Right. See everybody.